Money FM 89.3. Best of breakfast. Morning Shot.
Welcome to Morning Shot. 'Tis the time of the year when Singaporeans stand in the queue for long hours just to get our hands on branded traditional bak kwa or barbecued sliced pork. Prices usually rise in the lead up to Chinese New Year, with people putting in their orders or buying them as gifts as early as 2 weeks ahead, which is right about now. With inflation pushing up prices of ingredients needed to make this yummy snack, there have been reports that sellers are exploring ways to cut production costs in order to keep prices stable. So joining us in the studio today to break down the Bak Kwa Price Index this year is Seng Wun, Singapore Economic Advisor at CGS International. Seng Wun, welcome to the studio and to Money FM bright and early.
My pleasure. I'm still half asleep though.
Well, it's always great to have you on the show. Bak Kwa fans in the house, you and I, we know that you've been out and about, helping us keep an eye on those Bak Kwa prices over the past few weeks. About 2 weeks away from Chinese New Year now. So tell us, have prices already been jacked up, and by how much? How do they compare to just a few months ago?
Okay, I think you and I, our standard to-go-to one is the lim chi guan, sliced
That's
signature
right.
pork.
Yes.
When I check prices just before New Year's early, just basically a month after Christmas. So just that Christmas week or the end of 2024, the lim chi guan aeroplane brand signature pork was $64 per kg.
Okay.
Now, yesterday when I checked, I walked past since I live in Chinatown, it was $80 per kg. So that's close to basically the same price as the peak as last year. Whether prices will continue to rise as we are into the last, basically 2 weeks of the new year. As we get closer, it remains to be seen. It probably will. So yes, we are now seeing new record high as far as Bak Kwa prices are concerned.
Okay. So looking at the difference, $64 and $80 now, is that about right every year?
It seems to be. When the economy is sort of humming along, that typically would be the kind of magnitude in jump that we see in percentage term.
Yeah.
I think I've only seen so far once or twice in my lifetime in Singapore here during the recession period when New Year that we have seen prices actually come off. But otherwise, in normal years, we'll see that jump. And then what typically happens is then after New Year, get reset, but typically will be reset at higher prices than what it was in the prior year when the festive demand is over.
Yeah.
So it's just to adjust for just overall costs, etc., that get passed on to consumer just because things cost more to put the bak kwa together.
Yeah. So you talked about demand there, and we also know inflation may have caused some of the price hikes. But besides that, what exactly are the factors driving up the cost of bak kwa this year?
I think it's really just the fact that bak kwa, because of legislation and rules, you cannot just jump on the bus, go to Malaysia and buy 15 kg and bring them in. Although I think the news I just saw last week that the Singapore Food Safety and Security Bill has been passed, but doesn't mean that tomorrow you can go to Johor and buy 15 kg. Although I think bits of the legislation will be enacted, and maybe in a couple of years' time or next year you can go and get your bak kwa will be cheaper from JB and can consume them here. I think that's the key thing really is within Singapore here, labor cost has gone up. All costs has gone up. We pass through all costs. Pork need to be imported, sugar need to be imported, salt, etc. Labor cost has gone up, and so basically it's just the all-in costs that have gone up that get passed through. But with bak kwa, I suppose because it's a lot more labor-intensive, you need person to grill and become your artisanal, bak kwa that added on to the overall cost, because I think in the days leading to the first day or the reunion dinner, it's just a lot more people prefer, especially the Malaysian or the Chinese, to balik kampong rather instead of staying here and earning maybe $50 an hour to do your bak kwa, etc. So this reflects some of that cost.
Yeah.
And all businesses can do here really is try to retain them with some incentive, try to, in that sense, mechanize the production chain. It's still very labor intensive.
Yeah.
But I think subsequent in the years to come, it probably will be mostly done outside of Singapore if the security bills allows, say, more stuff to be brought in, more food stuff. Allow more stuff to be brought in, say, from Malaysia.
Yeah, so prices up all around. And here's the big question of the day. Which ones are the priciest bak kwa and which ones are the best deals? I know we talked about lim chi guan.
These are your average, you and I, like, as consumer, but clearly over the years, and certainly has been over the last 5-6 years or so, you got the artisanal one just because you have wealthier customer who can afford to pay, and they pay for, apple wood, the smoke fire, and the different flavor one, and they are above $100 per kg, and in fancy packaging, etc. They look very fancy as gift sets. So you even have those to entice the more well-heeled consumer who want to impress friends with such gift. So yeah, you do have a whole range out there. Typically, on average, lim chi guan would be considered a little bit more premium when it comes to this time of the year. The rest may be $10 or even $20 cheaper. So that's really the range, excluding the so-called artisanal handcraft in fancy packaging one, which will be in excess of $100 per kg. And there's still demand for that one.
Yeah. All the buzzwords there, applewood, smoked, artisanal.
Yeah, empirical pork,
Yeah.
Such things. Soon you have Yunnan ham inside there as well. That would do well. So it's just basically trying to craft something that is different from your average one.
Yeah.
You're happy with average.
Yes. Okay, so of course sellers are trying to keep prices affordable despite these rising costs, but what challenges do they face in cutting production costs, and what kind of adjustments or strategies might they be turning to, and could these affect the quality of the bak kwa that we know and love?
Yeah, I think this really it is that we all know that, when you do your own barbies, you do it on the grill and you just marinate yourself. It's always the best. So that kind of flavor obviously takes a lot more time to achieve. And if you were to basically put more people at the grill, it just costs, basically labor costs will be one of the very important factor.
Yeah.
But behind them, really, over the years, and clearly since the pandemic period, has been the supply, and therefore just cost of basic pork and other meat, for instance, has gone up. Last year, sugar prices have come down slightly now, but sugar prices, lots of sugar inside there. If you're diabetic, turn off. But yeah, so things like sugar clearly has gone up a lot more, stabilized a little bit. So cost of ingredients, food prices, if you look at, say, the various indicators, whether it's for the meat side or whether it's for, dairy product, they have gone up a lot more. I mean, how you and I may be talking about bak kwa today, maybe in 6 months' time we'll be talking about how kopi o, it will be a lot more because coffee prices currently have hit record high weather. And if you like, Japanese matcha tea, same thing again, supply has led to just a shortage of matcha, and your ice cream matcha will cost a lot more as well. Dairy products, similarly so. So we have seen over the years, various reasons, but primarily from disruption, weather changes, food supply, and the impact on even the rain. If fishermen can go out to sea to catch fish, this year's rabbit fish. Remember, you get that festive rabbit fish that must be on the table for good luck, etc. So that might cost a lot more come New Year time as well. So it varies in terms of the different food, but by and large, food prices has risen. It's come off recently, but we are not back to pre-crisis kind of a level. So all in, back to our bak kwa, all costs has gone up, including just raw material costs.
Yeah. So you spoke of disruption there, and I want to talk about disruption of a different kind. So Chinese New Year gifting is a deeply ingrained tradition.
Yeah.
We talked about gifting those very fancy looking bak kwa boxes. People love giving friends and colleagues, these kinds of goodies ahead of the celebrations. How might the current economic climate kind of influence this culture of giving? Do you think people may pull back a bit?
They pull back, then they jump on the second day, they jump on a plane and go off to Japan for a holiday. So which is a lot of people, because in terms of resident leaving during seasonal holidays are now back to pre-crisis levels. But I think the key thing to consider really is the local economic condition. So far, last year's growth has exceeded expectation. Job market remains very resilient. You're still seeing, I think, people picking and choosing, but businesses are a lot more cautious. Maybe just this year may be a far more challenging year just because external environment will be tested by the incoming President-elect Trump, who intend to have a whole slew of policies that may add to inflation and slow down consumption, etc. So we don't know about that one, but businesses are somewhat more cautious. So hiring has slowed, but back in Singapore here, there's still more jobs than available, although I know that new graduates joining the labor market takes a bit longer to find work, permanent work, but overall it's still fairly supportive of still wage growth. So when that still happen, then I would say festive spending, the next thing I'm looking at, lo hei. Every company, I think, including yours here, will having the lo hei as well, a lot more options as well. They still do that. So I think it's just a little bit more considered in terms of spending side. You're still buying your bak kwa, maybe just a bit less. You're still lo hei, that's perhaps not as fancy, but you'll still be willing to spend, whether it's a company side, household side, primarily because labor market conditions still remain supportive of a degree of spending, which is why you're still seeing bak kwa being supported by consumption at this point.
Yeah, well, Seng Wun, I'm already getting hungry. We talked about bak kwa, we talked about lo hei, all of these yummy, delicious things. So, last question for you. With pork and, food prices that we talked about getting pricier, how sustainable would you say the bak kwa industry is in the face of all of this rising costs, ongoing inflation? Any long-term trends you think we should look out for?
I would say that the key thing, that food security bill that was just passed, allowing you and I to jump on a bus and getting 15 kg of bak kwa back from JB or Arab Malaysia will help in terms of people have alternative now. Already as it is, in terms of cost, we do see a lot of people heading into JB to buy the CNY goodies. It's just a lot more cheaper. Production side, so I would say diversification of supply will help, because if you want to do still artisanal bak kwa over here and people are willing to pay for it, definitely. But I suspect, we will see more people being able to bring bak kwa in because the law allows them to do so. Even production, perhaps in Johor, in Laskanda, or the Johor Singapore economic zone, may allow some degree of food processing, etc. That brings, so essentially diversification of supply beyond just being forced to produce a bak kwa in Singapore will definitely help in terms of prices. So I would predict that probably prices may have already peaked in Singapore with bak kwa prices for Chinese New Year, but it may just level off because you may have new supply. But domestically, I think it's just how to become more efficient, become more important. Mechanization of process. It can be done, but it is just a lot more.
Yeah.
It's just expensive.
Yeah, lots of things to look at, and so many factors impacting one of Singapore's most iconic festive treats. So it's clear that bak kwa isn't just a snack; it's a reflection of broader economic trends and our enduring appetite for tradition. Seng Wun, this was a delicious morning shot. Thanks so much for joining us.
Me
too.
I want the bak kwa now.
Okay, we've been speaking with Seng Wun, Singapore Economic Advisor at CGS International. Stay ahead with Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.